RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOpsAF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers.
And today's episode is brought to you by Aligned. Here's a stat that RevOps won't love. 95% of the buyer journey happens when your sellers aren't in the room. So, how do you see what's actually going on? Well, with Aligned, that's how. Aligned is a collaborative, buyer-facing deal workspace that gives you real-time visibility into buyer behavior, stakeholder activity, and deal momentum. See what buyers engage with, get instant CRM updates, spot hidden stakeholders, and forecast with confidence, all without changing your workflow. Try Aligned for free today at alignedup.com. Aligned is your deal room for buyer clarity and forecast confidence. Check them out at alignedup.com.
Hello and welcome to RevOpsAF, the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Camela Thompson, and today I'm joined by Shachar Avrahami. Shachar, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me here. So I'm currently VP Product and Strategy at EverAfter. Before that, I was doing some CSOps and RevOps positions at two companies, and now I'm here in EverAfter for almost 5 years now.
And that's forever in startup world, so congratulations. That's yes. Fantastic.
Employee number 7, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the customer experience, because I too spent time in customer success operations, and the lens is just very different than how sales and even marketing sometimes looks at the world. Let's take this from like a startup angle. So a lot of times the focus is very heavily on new logo acquisition, and customer success can be an afterthought. I think in today's market, we prioritize the team hopefully a little bit more because of the emphasis on land and expand. We don't always see that. So where do you typically see gaps when it comes to customer success operations specifically?
That's a great question. To be honest, we at EverAfter, so we work with a lot of customer-facing organizations, focusing a lot in the post-onboarding. We can also support pre-sales and partnership, but the core focus is existing customers. And we do see some trends in the past few years that companies definitely understand that they have revenue to protect. So you can call it CSOps, you can call it like a RevOps focusing on customer success, but we definitely see movements and more people that are in charge of this stage of the company, of the life cycle.
Good, because I would say 5 to 6 years ago, when I was with venture-backed companies that were not super early stage, they had plenty of customers, but still, customer success was the last to get an operations resource. Typically, they were relying on internal people to figure out the systems and integrations and set up themselves. So I'm really glad that's changing. So where do you see an opportunity for operations to help in the customer handoff, maybe between sales and CS and after?
So just to add on your previous comments, my first CSOps position, I think, was 8 years ago, and I've established the CSOps position at my old company. And when I try to understand if there are like people like me in the world, I found very few of them. I think back then, 8 years ago, it was pretty unique. So I think that I was fortunate enough to work with very customer-centric companies that understood very early on in the process the need of why we need someone to focus on how we make the post-sales experience efficient and how we could actually structure really good processes. So going back to your question, maybe I could add some of like my take on how RevOps should operate in general, and then maybe we can drill down to specifically the post-sales element. If that's
yeah, let's do it.
Cool. I always like to think about myself while I was now I'm in product positions, but even when I was doing revenue operations position, I always looked at myself as the product manager of the GTM. with this principle, I always thought that I need to find, similar to product manager, what are the things that I need to prioritize, what the impact it should bring, what would be the reach, impact, and cost of that. And when you look at everything as a product, or every process that you do as a feature that you support your GTM motion, I think that you can better find opportunities for impact and basically to move the needle faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also embracing that mindset and thinking about measuring impact also creates a stronger argument for keeping the position and eventually expanding the number of people and resources you have on that team. So I think that's a very smart approach.
Yeah, and I think that especially nowadays, every January or February, you see more and more companies doing layoffs. In many cases, the departments that get the hit are the customer-facing departments, which I think puts the RevOps or everyone that has the opportunity to provide impact at scale. So I think that it puts a lot of focus on their work and how they can bring more and more value at scale that will rely less on humans and more on automation and technology that can eventually scale.
It's also a good opportunity to advocate for when you do need humans and the automation isn't working. Yeah. I've seen a lot of companies embrace AI and the workflows just aren't there yet, so the customers are getting really frustrated. So it's good to have somebody to say, hey, let's slow down just a little bit and make sure everything's refined before you do anything else.
Yeah, I think that customers might, so in many cases, what we see of different organizations before they start their journey with EverAfter, I think that many of the things that they like to improve would be their customer outcomes eventually. Every company wants to get to specific business metrics, right? So all of us, we would like to make sure that our retention is really good and we have like upsell opportunities and we have a low churn rate. In order for a company to achieve their own metrics, their customers need to achieve their outcomes, basically why they purchase your solution. And what we see in many cases, people tend to focus more on internal efficiency. And when you flip it over and you focus on how customers experience all of the different touch points and the different universe that you as a company serve or build for them, then I think that's where a lot of improvements that could help you to get to the right outcomes can thrive. This lens.
Exactly. Because I wish customer success and marketing would work more closely together. And typically I see it sometimes in really good companies. But people really need to understand that your brand reputation is everything. And that starts with delighting the customers, making sure their time to value is short term, and then keeping in touch with them to understand exactly why and what value they're getting out of your product. Because I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it's not what the founder thought when they made it. At least that's what I've seen. So maybe we can give some examples of things revenue operations can focus on to really change the focus on customer delight.
So I would like just maybe to differentiate between how, that we need to delight customers. I think that that's a part of the equation. I think that we have to focus on making sure that they get to the right outcomes, which while we are able to delight them and speed time to value and other important metrics. But I think that if we will just make our customers happy, but they will not get to the right outcomes of why they are paying us, I don't know. So I think that that's...
Yeah, and let me be clear, by delight, I mean during the sales process, you understand all the goals and what they want to achieve. You're actually communicating that to the CS team. Yeah. The CS team has an opportunity to verify that to make sure things haven't changed too drastically, because some sales cycles are really long. So yes, I mean, let's make everything in lockstep and running effectively and making sure that we get live when we say we're going to, because to me, you can't delight them without any of that in place.
Yeah. And even after the initial launch, we should find a way every now and then to reiterate on their goals, to make sure that we align their priorities and that we provide recommendations. And I think that in that perspective, RevOps has a tremendous impact on this part, because we are able to productize this experience and we are able to make a really good process that can help people save time on that, but we'll make sure that customers get the guidance and the resources to focus them on what will make them more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my experience, having a little bit distance from the onboarding process and revenue operations can be a big benefit, because when I see some customer success, I kind of see a couple extremes happen. You get somebody who's really process oriented and wants to get them out the door as soon as possible without really focusing on goals and tweaking things to be exactly how they need them to be, or that we never leave onboarding because we're always trying to perfect something that maybe was sold incorrectly. So how do you see operations coming in and helping with that customer experience?
That's a good and tough question, I think. We like to look at the life cycle stage in just like a linear line of sales and then onboarding and then like expansion and renewal and expansion. And I think that if we zoom in each one of those stages, we could probably identify multiple programs that we can build, and RevOps could be the facilitator of these programs that could really make sure that customers get the right value at the right time. I can give you an example. So onboarding is a big thing, but when you zoom into the onboarding, there's a lot of opportunities that we could improve, automate, reduce manual work, and make sure that we rely on data for that. One of the really successful programs that we see that can really help to speed time to value is to provide like a pre-key questionnaire, which basically means that at the moment the customer signs, the moment we have on the CRM a close won opportunity, an automated reach out is being sent to the decision maker. Hey, before the kickoff, we would like you to submit the following information so we can tailor the experience. And we use the fact that customers' motivation is at peak once they sign the contract, so we will use that to start gathering information from them. And if we productize this program, we can make sure that by the time that we have a kickoff, we have an approved information or verified information from the customer that we can tailor the rest of the onboarding towards. And this is, based on what we see, this is a program that RevOps could definitely build, because it takes information from the opportunity, surface that to the customer, updates back to the resource, to the CRM if needed, and can really make sure that onboarding is faster.
Yeah, for sure. And other opportunities there. And this is why I like revenue operations as being the bridge on all the go-to-market teams. Yeah. Because if we start to notice, hey, we've been selling onboarding as this period of time, but actually it's a bit longer. Let's set the right expectation during the selling process so they don't get really frustrated when it takes longer. So there's a lot of things we can do to communicate back to the other departments where we need to tweak messaging and make sure we're setting the right expectations. Are there other examples like that you'd like to dig into?
Yes, I think that now, if going back to the introduction, that we said that now companies they must focus on the revenue that they need to protect while they're acquiring more and more revenue. So a big part or a big trend that we see is that customers or companies understand the impact of having success plans to their customers and really make sure that on the go, even beyond onboarding, they're capturing and provide the right recommendations to customers to make sure they achieve their outcomes. The problem is that the traditional success plan takes a lot of time, takes a lot of human involvement. So it basically like a luxury program that only high touch or enterprise customers get. And that's a big miss, in my opinion, that RevOps could help solve. Because if we productize this program, we can have a very simple process. Step number one, gather customer goals. And even if you have a long tail of customers or non-pooled customer base, you could still have a form, you can still capture their goals. And based on their goals or their business priorities, you can curate the relevant recommendations for them. And then you could create the sense of doing or the sense of activity towards their outcomes in a very scalable way. And I think that if we take a closer look at that, it actually can create a super valuable flywheel that with the information of why customers purchase you or what outcomes they expect to have, you can take this information back to marketing, you can take this information back to sales so they can create resources, they can create better sales pitches because you can create this visibility of why your large existing customer base are still with you, basically.
Yeah, and it's a great way to fine-tune your ICP as well. Realizing that certain customers typically churn, or a certain profile that wants a certain thing does really well, you can hit the gas on one and the brakes on the other and make sure that you're not selling to the wrong people. I think we tend to get focused on who will fill out a lead form and who will sign a contract, and not always who makes the ideal customer.
Yeah, who stays and who expand and who getting value over time. And I think that when we create successful programs that can really help customers to achieve their outcomes, then they expand, they renew, then they refer, they recommend, and it helps the organization to be more focused on who they should sell to.
Perfect. So are there other aspects of the customer journey you'd like to emphasize for folks listening in revenue operations?
Yeah, I think if we take a look at CSQL, which is Customer Success Qualified Lead, this is a term that we hear more and more. And the idea behind this term is that how we can, under the customer success or under the post-sales motion, how we can create those upsell or expansion opportunities. And I think that RevOps that are focusing more on marketing and sales, it's like a second nature for them, the difference between outbound lead and inbound lead. And I think that when we zoom in also to the post-sales CSQL motion, we can also try to create hand raisers by customers and actually create like an inbound CSQL mechanism, because this will bring us much better results than if we will approach the customer and try to sell them. So we need to find like good ways to create those hints to customers that they can raise their hand and, okay, let's hear about this module that I don't have in my plan. And we see that it can actually help in creating those CSQLs.
Yeah, that's always frustrated me that people don't think about how to enable somebody to exit the funnel and come back, whether that's they disengaged with sales or they found a new product that they don't have that they want to see a demo to. Like, those people should be treated really well. So yes, building a process for that is so critical and often overlooked. That's a great point. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we tell people where to find you?
I think that maybe it's I think that RevOps, because the nature of the work, their ability to work with multiple stakeholders, so they understand and they hear different challenges. I think that we need to open our eyes and ears and really think about ways to optimize the customer experience, because when this is optimal, everyone wins. And I think that the CSMs or the CSM team leads, in many cases, they are busy with focusing on existing customers and making sure that their customers are happy and satisfied and getting to their outcomes. And revenue operations, in my opinion, because they are the expert in technology, processes, tools, humans, and making things more efficient, they have the opportunity to look at things from the macro level and really find those connections that can optimize a lot of things. So it's a really great position to be in my opinion.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to speak to customers, even ex-customers, and do some interviews. It's a great way to expand your skill set and provide a ton of value to the organization.
Yeah, and maybe if you go back to the RevOps as a product analogy that I offered, every time that I used to build a process when I was doing RevOps processes, I used to involve CSMs or AEs or SDRs as my design partners to the process, because they actually experience it on the day-to-day. When I try to build something without involving them, it usually failed because I wasn't in front of customers. So I think that helped as well.
That's a great point. Shachar, thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you online to network?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, you could always find a lot of resources on EverAfter. I'm hosting a lot of webinars. I have EverAfter University, which is a course on how to productize customer programs. It's a free course. We already have a fourth cohort. I think that over 600 or 700 people completed this course. So if the concept of productizing programs is something that you find interesting, you can definitely join us.
That's fantastic. We'll be sure to include those links in the show notes, and thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.
Keep it RevOpsAF, y'all.